Good morning, everyone. Today, I would like to talk an important topic entitled "Grades do not guarantee intelligence." Okay. Let me start with a simple question. Have you ever studied very hard for an exam? Got a high score, but then forgot most of the material just few days later. Or maybe someone who always ran up the class, but struggle when facing a real life situation that require critical thinking. Okay, if your answer is yes, then you are not alone. This phenomenon happen not only in Indonesia but around the world. Many students are judged by their grades, by their scores, and society often assume that students with higher score are more intelligent. But today, I want to challenge that assumption. Okay, my main argument in this is grades do not guarantee intelligence. Grades may show how well students perform in exam, but they do not fully reflect a person's ability to think, to understand, and apply knowledge in real life. Okay, to support this, my main idea, I will explain three main points. The first one is grade offer simply the complexity of learning. The second one is grades often measure memorization rather than understanding. The last one is grades are weak predictors of real life success. Okay, the first one, my main point is grade offer simply learning. Grade offer simply something that actually very complex, that is human learning. Because learning is not just about getting the right answer on a test. It involves many dimensions such as critical thinking, creativity, communication skill, and problem solving ability. However, the grading system reduces all of these into one single number or letter. According to Brookhart 2013, grades are often an inadequate representation of student learning because they combine multiple skills into one simplified score. Okay, let's look at a simple example. Imagine two students both receive a score of 19 on exam. Okay, the first student truly understand the concept and can explain it clearly, but the second student memorized the material the night before without fully understanding it. But in a grading system, both students are seen as equally smart. Okay, so this shows a major limitation. Grade cannot capture how students learn, only what they produce in short moment. And another issue is subjectivity. Different teachers may grade differently depending on their expectation and criteria. According to Jasky 2015. So, the same work could receive a different score depending on the evaluator. Okay, so if grades are already limit and representing learning, then we need to ask what they actually measure. Okay, the second main point is grade often measure memorization, not understanding. Grade often measure memorization rather than deep understanding. In many education systems, including in Indonesia, students are trained to success in exam by memorizing facts, repeating definition, practicing similar question pattern. This creates a system where success depends on memory, not thinking. Research by Bates 1999 explained that many students adopt what is called surface learning, where they focus on memorizing information rather than understanding it deeply. Okay, let me give you a very real example. Many students in Indonesia use method called is SKS, System Kebut Semalam. This means studying intensively the night before an exam, memorizing as much as possible, and forgetting it soon after the exam ends. This is supported by cognitive psychology research showing that cramming leads to short-term and long-term memory. Danlaski et al. 2013. So clearly, high grades can come from short-term memory, not from deep understanding. Another example is a student may score 100 in physics by memorizing formulas, but when asked to apply those formulas in real life situation like calculating electricity usage, they may struggle. And another example is imagine a student who gets a perfect score in English grammar test, but when speaking in real life situation, they cannot communicate effectively. So we must ask, is that true intelligence or just exam performance? Butler 1988 found that when students receive grades, they tend to focus only on the score and ignore feedback, which reduces their motivation to actually learn. This leads students to avoid challenges, fear mistakes, focus only on correct answer. As a result, important skills like creativity and critical thinking are reduced. So, if grades mainly measure memorization, the next important question is, they at least predict success in the future? Okay, my last main point is grades with predictors real life success. Grades are not strong predictors of success in real life. Research shows that academic performance explains only a limited part of long-term success, while other factors play much bigger roles. For example, Duckworth and Seligman 2005 found that self-discipline is a stronger predictor of success than IQ or test score. In fact, a study published in Education Research review shows that soft skill and emotional intelligence have a major impact on a career outcomes. Okay, let's look at a real life situation. In the workplace, the employees are not asked what was your math score in high school. Instead, they ask, can you solve the problem? Can you work with others? Can you adopt a new challenges? that equation they ask, not your grade. Then we often see that some students with average grade become successful entrepreneurs, while some top students struggle when facing a real life treasure. Because this is because real life is not multiple choice. There is no A, B, C, or D answer, but you must think, decide, and act independently. Okay. Another example is in today's digital era, many successful people learn skill through experience, online learning, and practice, not just formal education. This shows that intelligence is more about adaptability, continuous learning, real-world application, not just academic performance. Okay, so if grades cannot fully represent intelligence, cannot measure through understanding, and cannot predict success, then how should we define intelligence? Okay. For the conclusion is, today we have discussed an important reality in education. The first, grade over simply the complexity of learning. Second, grade of the major memorization rather than understanding. And third is, grade are weak indicators of real life success. Therefore, we must change the way we think about intelligence. Intelligence is not about getting the highest score in the class. It's about thinking critically, solving a real problem, adapting to change, and continuing to learn throughout life. Okay, let me end with a powerful reminder. Education should not only produce students who can pass the exam, but students who can face real life with confidence and capability. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Aku koreng.
Iya kan